Our business within the bandit camp completed, we first stopped at the general store to load up on all the food and water we could carry. The trek westward across the desert would take us nearly 2 weeks, so we wanted to be sure we were fully stocked. Taking the road almost due west, the desert trek proved punishing, and we were quite relieved when the magnificent city of blue finally appeared on the horizon nearly 2 weeks later, a grand oasis rising out of the bluish-tinged sand that otherwise dominated our vision in all directions. As we neared the metropolis, we could see that the city was protected by a vast stone wall rising 50 feet above the desert floor. The dwarves had built a virtual fortress here, and it was as strong as it was breathtaking. An hour later we stood at a tall, mighty iron gate barring our way in, at least a dozen dwarven guards above watching our every move. Taking a few minutes to study them, I recognized that they were not well. Yes, the desert was a hot, dry place, but the guards were moving unusually slow and a few seemed downright sickened. "Hail, guards of blue!" Eswin called to the dwarves above, attempting to gain their attention. "We've come to help with your water crisis, let us in." Straight to the point, I gave Eswin an affirmative nod, the rest of the party looking up to the guards as well. Moments later, a guard captain called down to us nearly 50 feet above. "How much water do you have? No one is allowed in unless they have plenty of water with them." "Well, take 5 of your water skins as payment for entry." While gold was normally the currency for entering a capital city of Mariga, it looked like we would need to surrender some of our precious water instead. A small basket was lowered down to us, upon which we carefully piled the 5 water skins. The basket was then raised back up to where the dwarven guards were standing, and we waited several more minutes for something to happen. The gate finally opened, and moments later we were permitted to pass into a large entrance hallway through the walls surrounding Blue. Perhaps a dozen armed dwarven guards quickly made their way into the hallway, not to impede our progress but to ensure that we didn't cause any trouble. "They don't seem exactly inviting, do they?" Redfern mocked, rather surprised. "They're likely facing a calamity they've never seen before," Cartha returned, her sense of compassion a little stronger. "I am sure they just need to be very careful about who they let into the city. They're not going to harm us." Cartha's explanation plausible. I ordered the party forward and into the hallway, the grand gate closing behind us. Passing through the stone entrance hallway, we soon stepped into the grand city of Blue, the jewel of the Cyan Desert. A dozen dwarven guards, dressed for long periods of exposure under the hot desert sun, watched us suspiciously as we entered. As we passed by the dwarves, we noticed a few were pointing at us and laughing amongst themselves, drawing our ire. "What's so funny?" Eswin wondered, not liking being mocked like this. "You're going in the wrong direction," the first guard responded. "Everyone is leaving Blue, you don't want to be here." "We're aware of your water shortage," Eswin barked, annoyed. "We've come to help." "Sure." The second guard grinned, as if Eswin still had food left on his face. "Suit yourself." The 2 guards clearly thought something was funny. I sensed that the guards didn't mean any harm or disrespect here. They just knew something we didn't, and we were probably about to find out. Just beyond the main gate, we entered a large city square, a place active with lots of townspeople. Closest to the party was a young dwarven mother and her infant, but we paid them little heed as we took in the full color and majesty of the dwarven capital city. The city hostel awaited our party on the other side of the square to the northwest. A variety of shops and other buildings lined the streets to the north, west and east, while the capital's power tower stood majestically due north in the exact center of Blue, the building resembling a mighty dwarf. Gazing about, I was surprised when the young mother stepped directly to me, pleading for something. "Please, please, kind heroes. Just 1 water skin, that's all I ask. My daughter hasn't had water in 2 days. Please." It was clear the young mother hadn't had any water herself for days either, so sharing a water skin with her seemed the obvious thing to do. The request humble yet sincere, I provided 1 of my water skins to the woman. The dwarf accepted the item as if it were made of gold and immediately allowed her daughter to drink her fill, saving the last few swallows for herself. The woman then thanked me several times, almost to the point of being obnoxious. "Uh-oh," Ariana then mumbled, pointing ahead. From out of nowhere, dozens of dwarves stepped forward, their eyes squarely on us. One of them shouted water, while another cried out they're giving away water. It appeared that if we stayed, we would be mobbed by a modest group of dwarves all desperately wanting water from our entire party. My impulse was to look for a place to hide, but then I decided to stand my ground and wait for the mob to arrive. Dozens of outstretched arms reached for all of us, the dwarves begging for water. Watching them, I could easily see that they had gone without water for some time, and if they didn't quench their terrible thirst soon, many of them would fall over and die. The encounter was absolutely heartbreaking. How could it have come to this? They need every water skin we have. Ariana shouted, her voice frantic. What do we do? Recognizing that all the dwarves would likely die without most of our supply of water, I decided to make a grand sacrifice and ordered the party to give away 50 of our water skins. The dwarves greedily grabbed what they could, but I didn't blame them considering the circumstances. Soon all the water skins were depleted and the crowd began to dissipate, perhaps a third of the dwarves thanking us for the gifts in some way. That's a mighty well thing you did, one of the gate guards announced, the only dwarf to remain after the mob itself had departed. All the water here is gone, you just saved a lot of lives. We came as fast as we could, Ariana responded. What's happened, what can you tell us? The water ran out a full season ago, the guard continued, turning for the power tower. The tears of blue have stopped falling, there is no water anywhere. The acolytes of the Huelsman way make all they can, but it's far too little to quench the thirst of an entire city. If the water does not return soon, we will all perish. Where should we start? Sainairs asked. Who controls your power tower? That would be Lord Huelsman, whose house has controlled blue for centuries, the guard returned. He's beloved here, and money is no object to him. But I think even he is perplexed by the loss of our water. Lord Huelsman, that's the dwarf we need to collect our reward from for rescuing his grandson back in the bandit camp, Eswin reminded me, having not forgotten the promise made by Prince Hebrami. The power tower is a good place to start, Redfern added. We should go there at once. Thank you again for what you did for our people, the guard concluded. We don't see such generosity often. The guard paused for a moment, unsure of what next he should say. Be careful, the dwarf finally stated, still unsure but wanting us to know. Something political is going on here in blue. I wouldn't trust anyone. Acknowledging the dwarven guard, we then traveled northwest into the city, leisurely strolling into a rather opulent hostel, its construction impressive and its many decorations splendid to behold. I did notice, however, that all the plants here had wilted and died recently, the sight unsettling. A female dwarven innkeeper awaited our business from behind the counter some 20 feet from the main entrance, the woman impatiently waiting to talk to us. How much for a night's stay? I asked, quite prepared to pay whatever seemed fair. The lady dwarf looked us over, as if the question itself was inappropriate. In turn, I recognized that she was moving very slowly and seemed sickly. A response then came moments later. The only thing of value here in blue is water, 2 of your water skins, and you can spend the night. I won't accept anything else. Our party now running low on water skins, we nonetheless honored the request, Sainairs and Kartha capable of creating more water with magic if needed. Thank you, tall ones. The dwarven hostel owner uttered as she took our water skins, drinking much of the first one before continuing the conversation. Now, about your rooms. You can stay as long as you wish, but if you leave and come back, I will have to charge another water skin. Just how bad is it here in blue? Ariana asked. Your water shortage seems substantial. All the water is gone, and none of us could make the 2-week journey out of the desert to escape the city, the dwarf replied, putting the rest of her water away. At this point, we need a miracle. We'll do our best to help, Kartha said with a soft smile. The lady dwarf managed a faint smile herself, then took her leave of us. The sun about to set outdoors, we quietly found our rooms, locked the doors behind us, then spent the evening nourishing ourselves, relaxing and preparing for the next day. The next morning, we began the day at the Blue Merchant, needing to restock some supplies and see what else they had for sale. Stepping into the establishment, we saw all manner of chests, trunks, cabinets, shelves, and so forth containing just about anything mundane we could want. Moments later, a middle-aged dwarven woman appeared from behind a counter, a small grin on her wrinkled face. Well, my stars, customers. And not just customers, but adventurers. I haven't had any customers in weeks. Except for water skins, which nobody has these days, I should have just about anything you need. Buying some rations along with a few other things, our transaction was quickly completed. The dwarf studied us a bit, not mistrusting but more like surprised that we were even here. With the tears of blue totally dry, nobody wants to be here, Have you come to help? Ariana, Kartha, and Redfern all nodded. Eswin then continued with an appropriate question. What can you tell us about the loss of all your water here? I may know something, but please, can you first spare a water skin? I haven't had any water in days. Accommodating the merchant, she thanked us for the water skin and guzzled half of it, putting the rest away before continuing. As outsiders, you wouldn't know that things weren't exactly ideal even before this drought. Our desert fortress has been the source of pride here for centuries, but these past few years under Lord Huelsman, things haven't gone well. Intuitively recognizing that there is more to the story, I successfully pressed the dwarven merchant into finishing what she had started here. Well, again, I don't know. Lord Huelsman is descended from a long line of strong, wise, responsible leaders who not only protected the city but kept all of us wealthy and secure. Huelsman, however, the city just hasn't been the same since he took power about 10 years ago. Hasn't been the same? Eswin inquired further. In what way? The changes have been subtle, the merchant returned, now clearly uncomfortable. A lack of food sometimes, commerce running more slowly than normal, mysterious accidents and even deaths, and now the tears of blue have stopped flowing. If you're here to help, just be careful. The merchant stared at me for a moment, her expression serious. She then turned away, ending the conversation. Having stocked up at the local merchant, we decided to visit the blue smithy as well and see if we could improve our weapons and armor in any way. Stepping into this larger establishment, we encountered all sorts of weapons, suits of armor, shields and other objects related to combat and the general defense of an adventurer. Moments later, a muscular dwarven fellow appeared from beyond a stone counter and hailed us, inquiring about our business here. Smith, do you have any special items we could buy? Eswin asked. A powerful magical item perhaps? The smithy showed us a small collection of +1 weapons, armor, and shields we could purchase, along with a few +2 items. However, none of it seemed better than what we were already carrying. Tell you what, I have something really special you may want to see, the smithy said with a grin, disappearing from the counter. The smithy then returned with a tall, glassy shield, something we had never seen before. Just received this gem, pardon the pun, the smithy continued. Reinforced by magic and even tougher than a metallic shield. And it negates any sort of undead energy drain, or so I've been told. It's a one-of-a-kind piece, and I will part with it for, say, 10,000 gold? Despite all the loot we had recovered at the death crypt of Khaldun a few weeks ago, we simply couldn't afford the shield and had to pass on it for now. And where did you find such a unique item? Redfern asked. Was it made right here in blue? I know you dwarves are specialists in making magic arms and armor. The dwarven smithy shrugged his shoulders in response. A dwarven guard brought it in. He said he found it down in the aqueduct, which is bone dry these days. Redfern asked to see the intriguing shield and spent nearly a full minute inspecting it. Began the magic user, carefully studying the shield. I can't tell what sort of magic was used, it's powerful, but really strange, almost as if created by accident. The dwarf then put the shield away again, ending the encounter. Leaving the intriguing shield behind, we made a quick stop at the local bank to deposit some of our excess coinage. Wanting to visit the power tower next, Sainairs instead convinced us to stop by the local Huelsman temple to learn anything we could. Arriving just 10 minutes later, the white construction appeared rather modest compared to many of the buildings within the city, but perhaps not as impressive as I would have expected. The interior of the church was rather splendid but not quite as grand or spectacular as I was used to seeing, even back in Tobin. I was also a little surprised that, so far at least, nobody had come to greet us. Hence, we began to look around. I quickly noticed that the temple's interior design was somewhat different from what I had seen in the past. While an attractive altar and pulpit used to deliver the stories of Sisla dominated the northern third of the building, there were very few pews here, suggesting that relatively few of the dwarves within the city attend actual services. And why are there no acolytes here? Sainairs wondered, concerned. Someone should have greeted us by now. Taking a closer look at a cork bulletin board along the wall, I saw a variety of standard notes and church-related information, none of which seemed all that interesting. However, I also noticed a scrap of paper pinned to the board that seemed different from the rest. The note read "Leave blue at once, you sniveling Huelsmans." The note was rude and out of place. While I couldn't be sure, the handwriting seemed like it was written by a dwarf. Hence, I wondered if the dwarves here in blue didn't want the Huelsman way here within the city. Still standing at the bulletin board, I was almost surprised by a man from behind, wearing the robes of the Huelsman way. "Welcome, children of Sisla. I am Acolyte Hermes. How may I assist you?" "I am Sainairs, a Huelsman priest turned adventurer with this party of heroes," Sainairs responded, speaking on my behalf. "Where is everyone?" "Apologies, but I am the only one left," the acolyte returned, disappointed. "If you want details, you should speak to Supreme Healer Priest Dilt about that." "And where can he be found?" Sainairs asked, the obvious question. "At the Power Tower, of course," the acolyte responded. Supreme One Dilt is almost always there these days, providing advice and counsel to Lord Huelsman during these difficult times. "Then let's go see this Supreme Healer Priest Dilt," Sainairs suggested. "He may have answers for us." Approachable from all four cardinal directions, we quickly arrived at the Dwarven Power Tower and peered up at it, the mighty construction itself shaped like a tall, stout dwarf, its dark eyes normally the location from where all the city's water comes pouring out. Long vertical grooves had been etched into the stone from the eyes down to the ground, where some sort of moat, itself now dry and empty, encircled the power tower. From our vantage point, we could tell that the tears of blue must have been flowing for centuries. What could possibly have happened to stop the water recently, turning everything dry and dusty? Crossing a drawbridge over the empty moat and reaching the power tower entrance, we encountered a dozen dwarven guards keeping watch here, not about to just let us pass by. Moments later, the guard captain called out to all of us. "Halt! You've reached the dwarven seat of power here in blue and the entire Cyan Desert, Lord Huelsman presiding. State your business." "We're here about your water shortage," Eswin responded, expecting the encounter to be nothing more than a formality. "We want to know more and we're here to help." "Then you've wasted your time," the dwarven captain responded. "We're not to allow anyone to enter, under direct orders from Lord Huelsman himself. Now go away." Well, that was unexpected. I would have thought our help would have been welcome, but apparently that help was being turned away. Naturally, we then tried to persuade the guards here to let us through. "There is nothing you can say or do to pass by," the captain summarized, his position final. And with that, the guards here stood defiantly against our party, unwilling to let us pass. Redfern then approached a moment later, looking about and whispering into my ear. "I believe there is a powerful wizard here who wants to help. She said to meet her in the library, we should go there." Redfern continued to look about, someone magically communicating with him but unwilling to be seen. My party unable to get past the guards, it appeared someone wanted to meet us at the library instead. We then asked the guards for directions to the library and were quickly on our way. Soon reaching our destination, we entered what appeared to be a surprisingly stocked and resourceful dwarven library. Thousands of books, tomes, and manuscripts crowded the stone shelves all around the massive chamber, obviously providing many places to conduct topical investigation and research regarding blue and the Cyan Desert. The chief librarian stepped to me and inquired, obviously not about to let us just pass without some sort of financial gift to the library. Handing her a gold piece, the chief librarian acknowledged my donation and motioned us forward. No sooner than we begun to look around, Redfern stepped to me, something on his mind. "Someone here wants to talk to us." "And who would that be?" Eswin asked suspiciously, looking about. "No idea," Redfern honestly returned. "But I am guessing we should go in that direction." Redfern pointed toward the northeast corner of the library, where several books appeared to be dancing in midair. We spent a few minutes to first arrive at the dancing books and then followed them into a secluded backroom within the library, making sure we weren't being followed. Entering the room and closing the door, we noticed a single individual standing there in the shadows. Stepping forward, I immediately sensed the power and presence of a genuine truistic, a member of the inner circle stood before us. "There you are, Lomtora," the older human began, her voice frail but her presence just as strong as Vel back in Kathleen, or even Margaret in Tobin. "We need to talk. She knows who we are." Eswin cursed, reaching for his weapon. Yes, of course, I remembered Vel telling us back in Kathleen that the inner circle was out to execute all of us for allowing the onyx seal to be destroyed within the evil root forest. It appeared that they had now caught up to us. "Yes, I know who you are, and that my fellow representative Vel set you free back in Kathleen to atone for allowing the second age of damnation. All of you are outlaws, but I am not here for that." Still on edge, Eswin was the last to finally lower his weapon, all of us sensing that the circle member wasn't here to do us any harm. The powerful human then took a single step forward, continuing the conversation. I am Voxar, representative to the Cyan Desert. As I am sure you know, all of Blue has gone without water now for nearly a season, and its populace is slowly dying as the result. While I don't know why the water stopped, I strongly believe that both Lord Hefralin and Supreme Healer Priest Dilt are somehow involved. Not just involved, but somehow responsible. That's a very serious allegation, Sainairs responded, immediately distrusting the circle member. No Sislan would ever put so many lives at risk, surely you are mistaken. The Sislan way is not nearly as saintly as you want to believe, Voxar returned, her demeanor passive yet all-knowing. I know Hefralin and Dilt have colluded in some way, and I believe it has somehow caused the lethal drought now plaguing all of Blue. But I can't risk starting an international incident here without absolute proof. I need your help. Needing some quick advice from one of my fellow heroes, I looked to Redfern, the magic user nodding his head yes, signaling that we should consider what Voxar had to say. Understand, there is a conspiracy going on here in Blue. The Dwarven government is involved, the Sislan way is involved, perhaps even some of the citizenry is involved. The Tears of Blue didn't just vanish, the water supply has purposely been cut. And now, thousands of innocent dwarves will soon die if the truth isn't exposed. So, what can we do to help? Kartha asked, her mind always open. I need an independent, neutral voice to bring some randomness to this conspiracy, Circle member Voxar continued. Those responsible had no idea your party would arrive like this unannounced, so I need you to return to the Power Tower and demand an audience with Hefralin. By official protocol, both Supreme Healer Priest Dilt and myself will be present as well, so I can monitor the conversation and see where that takes us. And how, exactly, do we demand an audience with Lord Hefralin? Eswin asked, still quite suspicious. With this, the official seal of Lord Hefralin. Voxar handed me what appeared to be a golden scroll tube. Inside was a single piece of parchment that, according to local custom, guaranteed its owner audience with the Lord of Blue himself. Where Voxar acquired such a unique and valuable treasure I could only speculate, but it should get us past the Dwarven Power Tower guards. Look, our interests are aligned, Voxar summarized. We're both here to find out what caused the drought and restore the water supply before all the dwarves perish. Can I count on you? Yes, Eswin responded before I could say anything. But we want a reward as well. Your reward will be that I don't turn you over to the inner circle, Representative Voxar responded, disappointed. Indeed, here is an opportunity to help the circle find a reason not to execute all of you, so don't waste it. The circle wizard gave us a final nod, then immediately teleported away, leaving us alone there within the dark backroom of the library. I still don't trust her, Eswin sneered, putting his weapon away. She's probably part of this conspiracy, too. And there is no way Supreme Healer Priest Dilt is involved, Sainairs added, his devotion to his calling absolute. No Sislan would ever put an entire city at risk as the circle member suggests. Well, we won't find out standing here, Redfern stated, disagreeing with both Eswin and Sainairs. Let's go. All in agreement, my party left the backroom and returned to the main chamber of the library, the encounter with Voxar weighing heavily on all our minds. And that's a wrap of episode number 23, The Dry Oasis. Expect additional episodes every few weeks as the story continues.